You see, the difference between me and Mark Levin is Mark Levin will come on here and show you outright crimes of Democrats. We'll say that. And he'll say that's an excuse why a Republican, why a conservative should not be charged with whatever they're charged for. You see, I am a leftist. I believe in law. Therefore, when Democrats do it, lock their ass up. When Republicans do it, lock their ass up. That's how I feel. But Mark Levin's different. So, Mark Levin is a old fucking dinosaur of a political commentator from the 90s, is right-wing talk radio days. He has done a number on specifically my father's ability to analyze politics, and for that, I am going to now watch this video and do my best to tear it a second, third, and possibly fourth asshole, because I hate this fucking guy, and I had to listen to him on the way to school every morning. Maybe not every morning, whenever my dad took me to school, which wasn't every single morning. But yeah, that's why I'm here. That's why I picked this video. I'm here for blood. I'm assuming he's just gonna bitch about Trump. Let's just go. Whoa, what just happened? Oh, okay.
This is Life, Liberty, and Levin. We have two great guests tonight, Senator
Christ,
Tom
alliteration,
Cotton and
good job.
Hansen. But before I go to our great guests, we see what's happening to our country. I couldn't be happier that you're here this evening. There was a great philosopher, he didn't live that long, but a great philosopher.
Don't you dare be.
In the 1800s, His name was Frederick Bastiat. He wrote a little book called The Law. Ronald Reagan had that book, among many other books.
Yeah, he probably had a lot of books.
His bookshelves at his home.
Ronald Reagan was a fucking actor, you idiot.
What the man said was incredibly profound.
Oh my God. I just noticed how much my dad talks like this guy. God, fuck this dude.
And I want to quote him very, very briefly to lay the foundation for what I want to get to with you this evening. He said, the law perverted, and the police powers of the state perverted along with it. The law, I say, not only turned from its proper purpose, but made to follow an entirely contrary purpose.
So, okay, so we're doing the law isn't... Do you think we could think of some examples where the police, the power of the police, the power of the law has been turned against people and used for a purpose that is not one at the heart of a nation's interests? Do you think that we could think of some examples that aren't just Donald Trump being arrested for laws that he broke? Do we think we could find that?
The law become the weapon of every kind of greed. Instead of checking crime, the law itself is guilty of the evils it is supposed to punish.
Yes. You mean like when regulators and the law allows for corporations to crash their trains, to pollute the waters, to burn down entire towns in Hawaii. Like, when corporations are allowed to do all these things that lead to either the death, disease, or both of the citizens of the United States, and the U.S. as a regulatory body goes and moves right along. Oh, you mean that? You mean that sort of thing? That's what I think. When I hear that quote, that's kind of what I'm thinking, is when the law is written in such a way and perverted in such a way so that, when you or I or somebody, in the lower classes, somebody without power goes and steals a fucking candy bar, we get to go to jail for a night and possibly, go to jail for a little bit longer for shoplifting. Meanwhile, if you, pollute a city, if you pollute a water source, if you crash your trains in the middle of Ohio and cause a fucking nuclear looking ass explosion, in the middle of the town, then, it's just, you made a mistake. It's okay. People only got sick. Some people only died. It's fine. It's fine. Cause people to get cancer. It's fine. It's fine.
That unfortunately, law by no means confines itself to its
Why
proper
is the
function.
U and okay?
And when it has exceeded its proper functions, it is not done so merely in some inconsequential and debatable matters. The law has gone further than this. It has acted in direct opposition to its own purpose.
And again, what's the purpose of the law, right? And the purpose of the law is just to give us guardrails and standards for behavior, right? But what do you do when laws are written, when like laws are used, where like, again, I mentioned it earlier, you and me go and steal something, you and me go and, go and rob a bank, whatever it might be, something on the smaller end. I guess robbing a bank is on the smaller end, but you get what I mean. Shoplift, something like that. The law comes down heavy on you. If you're a bank and you, I don't know, let's say, open bank accounts, faulty bank accounts, for your customers to inflate the your numbers of members at your bank, to do any of that stuff. Do you go to jail for that? You crash the economy, do you go to jail for that? Anybody go to jail for that? No, nobody did. The economy crashed. Millions of people lost their houses, lost their jobs, everything else. The entire world economy, falls apart. And what happens? Banks and all of these private organizations, nothing happens to them. Maybe there's a fine, maybe there's a fee, but it doesn't outweigh the amount of money that they made. But like, again, keep in mind, I'm listing all of these examples. He's going to get to the thing that he's talking about. That's a perversion of this law. And do you notice that all the stuff I'm saying are pretty obvious and pretty, oh yeah, these are like really big problems. These are really huge problems with the way that our laws are written, with the ways that they're structured, with the way that they're enforced. Oh yeah, like these are pretty, I think, pretty obvious, pretty observable. But what is he going to identify as so appalling to this law that he cares about so much? The vague, and of course it's always like, oh, well, like, the law's purpose, which is to guard society and its, and its standards, right? But like, when we say a society, who are we even talking about? We're talking about the people. So like, the metric for harm done should be how many people are harmed by this. And I think, crashing economies and, destroying companies with predatory speculative schemes, stuff like that. I think that's a lot worse than what he's going to identify.
The law has been used to destroy its own objective. It has been applied to annihilating the justice that it was supposed to maintain, to limiting and destroying rights, which its real purpose was to respect. The law has placed the collective force at the disposal of the unscrupulous, who wish without...
And keep in mind, the right, what's the right here that he's complaining about? The right to what exactly?
Without risk, to exploit the person, liberty, and property of others. It has converted plunder into a right.
Goddamn, dude, you're gonna read the whole fucking book?
And it has converted lawful defense into a crime in order to punish lawful defense.
Yep. And what does that sound like but a bank taking your house because they've bet too much on it and now need to foreclose on it?
It was written almost 200 years ago, and that is exactly what's happening to our country today with the Democrat Party and this Marxist movement.
Marxist.
Let's just take a big picture look here. Let's look at the federal level, the judges, the Department of Justice, as applies to former President and candidate Donald Trump.
Amazing.
In Washington, they used a D.C. grand jury to bring Florida charges. Venue shopping in violation of Department of Justice rules for prosecutors and grand juries. Grand jury abuses by the so-called special counsel, including the denial of attorney-client privilege and...
That's 10 minutes.
...due process to the former president. That is, using attorney-client privilege information, discussions with your lawyer and lawyer's notes with a grand jury.
Oh yeah, wait, what was his, okay, there we go.
In Washington, they used a D.C. grand jury to bring Florida charges. Venue shopping in violation of Department of Justice rules.
Is he wait. Is he, wait, in Washington they use D.C. Well, it depends on which case, because Florida, wait, he's not being charged in anything in Florida. He's being charged, he's being charged for a federal crime that he committed in Florida, but that's not the same thing as Florida's not bringing charges against him. Florida isn't charging him with anything. There is no Florida DA who's bringing charges. The DAs in the states are, what's her name in Georgia, whose name I already forget, obviously. Alvin Bragg in New York, and I think that's a state charge. And then the one that is involved in Florida is the documents case. That's a federal case. Not a Florida
for
case.
prosecutors and grand juries. Grand jury abuses by the so-called special counsel, including the denial of attorney-client privilege and due process to the former president. That is, using attorney-client privilege information, discussions with your lawyer and lawyer's notes with a grand jury, in which you don't have a lawyer there, in which you can't provide exculpatory information.
So let's be clear. He's talking about text messages between his lawyers in the, because, okay, so what I'm noticing is he's trying to like collapse different cases in on each other to kind of make a holistic critique, even though each individual case is a little bit different. You don't have attorney-client privilege when you're breaking the law. So when you have attorneys for the, because if we're talking about, you know, privileged a client-attorney communications, he's talking about the Georgia, the case in Georgia, which again, at the end of the day, you don't get that kind of privilege when you're being investigated for breaking crimes. That's you don't. It's not like you can. It's not like you can discuss breaking crimes with your lawyer and nobody can say, "Hey, that's against the law." You're not use that as evidence, especially if they get a hold of it.
Information in which you cannot challenge anything. We have a prosecutor working for Jack Smith who's accused of extorting a lawyer. Seems pretty serious to me. That is, he said he would help him get a judgeship in exchange for telling his client to turn state witness against former President Trump.
I noticed that there's no quotation marks in any of that, so you can take that with the grainest of salts.
Where is that now? It's being investigated in secret by the chief judge of that district.
So investigated in secret, meaning not really being investigated then. It's in secret, nobody can see it, but shh, they're investigating him for something.
Who's another Obama appointee? We've heard nothing.
Probably because there is nothing.
As I said, stripped of attorney-client privilege. And that was done in secret by another Obama judge.
What is this? Stripped. Let's see, what do we got? Fuck. Fuck it, if you want something interesting that you'll understand. Okay, here we go. You know, never let it be said that I'm not willing to click links.
Hey, I'll try.
That was good. That was good. That was solid. That was solid. No, we're not. No. That's fine. That was solid. I did understand that one. I understand SpongeBob. I'm not Jewish. What do you want from me? And I'm not religious or Jewish. All of it is gobbledygook to me. It all just turns into fucking rice pudding from it in my brain.
We have no idea why that occurred, and her order remains secret. We're talking about a former president, the leading Republican nominee for president, and all these secret trial activities going on. Former president was stripped of his executive privilege authority to protect his conversations with his former vice president and his staff while he was.
Well, it's too bad that they're allowed to interview. What's it called? Wait. Mike Pence took notes on their conversations. If Mike Pence is willing to disclose those notes about their talks, then that's not like executive privilege. That he's a witness. The fuck?
Was president of the United States. That's never been done before. No attorney-client privilege.
Do you know how like? Do you know how much how much record keeping they do in the White House? A lot.
Criminalized a document dispute using a search warrant, a SWAT team from the FBI, and seized records. Never done before in American history.
Maybe because they didn't. Fucking Mark, what are you talking about? We didn't have SWAT teams back in the day, so yeah, like, yeah, it maybe, crazy thought. If Trump hadn't, I don't know, held on to some of his records, some of the government documents that they told him that he needed to hand over, they wouldn't have had to raid his house. Like, the whole raid was such a, like, you brought that on yourself, and Trump brought that on himself. Like, you can complain, oh, how dare they? But, like, Mark Levin doesn't complain when they bring a SWAT team in to break up some, like, gang or something like that. Like, Mark Levin has never cared about the use of SWAT teams, except in this one specific scenario. This is the only time Mark Levin has ever cared about police force and over and like police what's the word, over aggression or whatever.
An abuse of law, most aggressive use of the law to do something which is really outrageous. A secret search warrant, we just heard from another Obama judge.
How did you hear about it if it was secret? Or he means it used to be, it was signed off.
Allowing the government to seize all communications the former president had on Twitter, including private communications. Again.
Twitter's been around. Okay, wait a minute. Twitter's been around for how many presidencies? Like Obama, Trump, and Biden. It's been around for 3 presidencies, you fucking nerd. Jesus.
Trial by secrecy in a Democrat courtroom.
We'll finish this up and then I'll watch
judge, a Democrat prosecutor, a Democrat grand jury, Democrat future jury. Now, why was that done in secret?
Blame the refs. Blame the refs.
If he finds out that we're looking at his Twitter account, he may flee the country.
Well, it's almost like he was also the first president to be banned from, like, what, suspended from Twitter because of his communications on the platform. By the way, a platform that is not publicly owned, or one that's not privately, like the government doesn't own Twitter, and it didn't own Twitter back then. So the FBI and any other investigatory body who would like access to his communications, guess what? They can get a warrant for that. And, you know, if Twitter wanted to fight it, they absolutely could have. But, you know, they already had to suspend him. Certainly, they thought it was useful. You know, they had some kind of evidence, some kind of, you know, they did the due process thing. They got a warrant for it. What the fuck do you want, Mark? I thought the law was being broken. But no, they get a warrant for it like everything else. Like, Mark Levin over here would be like, how dare they break into his house that they got a warrant to enter in, that he was refusing to allow them to enter into. How dare they do that? Can you believe they've done this? Like, it's a warrant. They got a warrant. Like, your Twitter account is not privileged. Nobody's Twitter account is privileged information. It's owned by a private corporation. You can hand it over whenever they want.
Leave Mar-a-Lago. He'll leave it all. He'll just flee the country.
Do it.
Now, how ridiculous is that? Now, what have they done? They use an 1871 Ku Klux Klan statute, a 2002 Enron statute, and financial obstruction statute, none of which have anything at all to do with January 6th.
Okay, if you say so. Also, none of this is also January 6th. Not all of these are January 6th. The financial obstruction statute is for the isn't for January 6th. That's for the election crimes. The KKK statute, I don't remember which one that is for. He has 4 indictments. These are all for different cases. They're not throwing these all at him for one case.
Ku Klux Klan statute, a 2002 Enron statute, and financial obstruction statute, none of which have anything at all to do with January 6th. Okay.
She's sleeping.
They used the 1917 Espionage Act,
whoa,
which was passed
we've
by
never
Woodrow
used
Wilson to imprison his political opponents. Sound familiar?
Whoa, we've never used the Espionage Act ever.
Familiar? And it was applied against Eugene Debs, who was running for president on the Socialist Party, and he ran while he was in prison. I guess that's what the Biden administration thinks ought to happen now.
Wait, whoa! I thought Biden was Marxist. What is this? What is this? I thought Brandon's supposed to be a Marxist. He's cool with the socialists. Is Trump the real socialist? Crazy.
Piling charges, as we say. That is, making multiple criminal charges from a single event. Just piling them on. Now, why do they do that? Because they just...
Mark Levin, how dare you charge somebody with multiple things for one crime? Jesus Christ. Oh, thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. Like, what?
Just want one conviction. And they want a jury to sit there and say, look, we got 40 charges here in the document case.
Goddamn right.
All right, let's find guilty on 1 or 2 of them and we'll clear them of the rest. That's what's going on. Every dirty trick.
Yep. That is called that's called a skill issue. You know, that's called the shotgun approach. You know, you loaded up your 12 gauge. You just kind of throw out as many eligible charges as you can. We'll get him on something. We'll get him on any number of things.
Imaginable. There's been relentless leaking of investigative, sensitive, and even concealed information to the media. In particular, Maggie Haberman at the New York Times, to the Washington Post, and to CNN. And I've demonstrated here, I have examples of
40 leaks in 6 months. Does that actually, I want everyone to understand, we get leaks like this constantly. This isn't new. They make it sound like he's trying to make it sound like, oh my God, 40 leaks. Oh my God, in 6 months. That's like nothing. That's really like nothing. Like the amount of leakage that we have in government, especially in investigatory bodies, is like surpasses this by quite a large stretch. Like it's not that impressive.
Over 40 leaks from this prosecutor in the Department of Justice in the past 6 months in violation of federal law to destroy the objectivity of any jury pool. And as for the New York Times, I want you to remember something. Their reporter in Moscow was a Stalin mouthpiece. During the Holocaust, their bureau chief in
I love how this guy wants to do this whole thing about how he's like defending Eugene Debs and socialists and then rolls right back into McCarthyism.
Berlin was a Hitler mouthpiece while they covered up the Holocaust. I want to remind you, the New York Times helped install Fidel Castro, who had 28
McCarthyism.
to overthrow the government in Cuba, which was a corrupt government, but still, it wasn't a communist regime. And now the New York Times is trying to overthrow this government in Atlanta.
The New York Times. Yeah, the real destruction of American democracy will come at the hands of the New York Times. Yeah, okay.
Outrageous. Leaked district attorney's grand jury charges before the grand jury even...
this one for Atlanta. God. They literally just posted the charges early before they were verified and then took it down immediately after. You fucking chud. Jesus Christ. Dude, my guy, you need to take your medicine. Somebody get this man his fucking heartburn medicine.
To vote on the charges. Indicted 19 individuals, including the former president, for exercising their free speech rights, organizing a challenge to an ongoing political campaign for president, seeking dual
that is what they said they did.
Close election, which, by the way, is done often, providing legal advice.
No, they weren't looking for dual electors. They were looking for alternative electors that would subvert the will of the voters. Oh, man, the language. You can tell he, like, studies law. Because like saying dual electors is technically correct, but it mischaracterizes the goal and intent of the plan that the Trump team was executing during the post-election process.
Lobbying state officials and then accusing them all, because of all these so-called phony charges, of mob action. That is RICO, a mob law.
Well, it's used to
obstruct and overturn the election.
Well, it's not because they're the mob or something. It's just a way that you kind of package a criminal organization together. RICO laws are just the all it really is the yarn that you wrap around the package. That's all the RICO laws are. It's just bundling everybody together.
In other words, they were charged for routine political activity. The DA, who represents only Fulton County, Georgia, county prosecutor, nevertheless claims to use evidence involving 6 other states outside of Georgia, uses allegations made by the Pelosi January 6th committee, which have since...
Well, that was an investigatory body done by, like, the House of Representatives. So, yeah, they're allowed to use evidence, especially when it involves this specific case. And also, if there's exculpatory evidence, I think that's the word for it, that this kind of attempt was made in another state, I also think that's rather relevant to the case. Like, yeah?
Destroyed. God knows how much material that they collected on that committee in order to prevent the former president from using any exculpatory information that they may have come across.
Hey, that's my word. Also, they destroyed all of the evidence. They broadcasted all of the evidence. They don't need to keep it. They don't need to keep the shitty scribbled note. They already took a photo scan of it, and it's in government records. It's in public records already.
This is a federal matter, not a state matter. She's obviously coordinating with the Department of Justice and the special counsel.
Well, no. The election interference is a state matter. That's different. You're buddy boy. You're mixing a lot of this up. There are 4 separate cases going on here. Chicago school press.
Jack Smith, we know this. She was directly asked if she was, and she said, "I'm not discussing my investigation."
Whoa. Mark Levin is not a lib. Why would you? That's offensive. Mark Levin is going to haunt you until your dying day, Sensible Center. How dare you call him a lib?
That's a yes. And she's not discussing her investigation, which means she's been coordinating with Jack Smith.
Also, have you
This is not only
seen
interference in a federal election, it's a
Javier
bald-faced attempt to
Milei?
empower
I've never seen
thousands
somebody
and
more triggered.
thousands of local and state prosecutors.
I'm pretty sure the only thing he gets more triggered about is a pair of scissors.
Decapitate the federal government. If there's a Republican candidate, if there's a Republican president.
Wait, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention, Mark. Hit me with that one more
This is
time.
not only interference in a federal election, it's a bald-faced
Ah,
attempt
yes.
to empower thousands and thousands
Yes,
of
of
local
Americans.
and state prosecutors to decapitate the federal government.
What I find really funny is it's always this freak out about do you notice there aren't investigations for literally any other presidential candidate? Do you notice that? Do you notice that that's not none of the other Republicans have outstanding indictments or investigations about them? It's shockingly just the guy who broke laws. It's crazy.
If there's a Republican candidate,
Sick
there's
these
a
mop up.
Republican president.
What? Yes.
Just to decapitate it. More on that later. Now,
God
New York,
damn, man,
what do we have?
that shit is
Not forgetting
shining.
here, we have a DA,
Who's black?
a Soros DA, a Democrat DA. He breathes life into a case that was rejected ultimately by the prior DA, another Democrat. What is that about? Non-disclosure agreements.
Yeah.
Non-disclosure agreements.
They're the law. Mark, you can't claim to care about the law and then the minute a law's broken by your guy, then do like non-disclosure agreements. Like, fuck off, dude.
It's a completely phony case. There's over 30 charges of federal crimes against the President of the United States.
Don't break crimes.
He takes misdemeanors, and they weren't even misdemeanors, but he takes them, turns them into felonies. Makes these
Magically.
preposterous allegations.
Magically turns them into
and
felonies.
That's the first set of indictments. Every one of these prosecutors is conflicted. Alvin Bragg, a Soros prosecutor, a radical Democrat in Manhattan.
A radical Democrat. Honestly, how left do you think Alvin Bragg is? He's a fucking district attorney.
And he ran on charging Donald Trump. Fannie Willis, a radical elected Democrat who's fundraising
Another
off the
black
charges
person.
against Donald Trump for a next election. Jack Smith, a former
Thank
top
God.
official in the Eric Holder Department of Justice, worked
God,
closely
these are
with
like-
him, with former FBI Director James.
My dude looks like he belongs in like a document. This picture of Jack Smith, and probably Jack Smith in general, he looks like he should be like a person of interest photo in like an X-Files episode as they're looking for like a possible alien or whatever.
James Comey,
He's got a
and his
weird
general
face.
counsel Andrew Weissman, who's all over MSNBC spewing his stupidity.
Because nobody is on Fox News doing the opposite for Trump. Got
Of
it.
course, Smith's wife is a Democrat activist, an Obama sycophant, with a long record of prosecutorial
Says the
abuses of
Reagan
process,
sycophant.
that is Jack Smith, pressuring and threatening witnesses,
Top official of
bankrupting
Eric.
criminal targets, leaking campaigns with friendly reporters like Haberman over
Wait, Jack Smith, an investigator for the federal government, worked closely with the FBI?
there, the New
Shocking.
York Times, other news outlets, the Washington
There's
Post,
a Democrat
CNN,
activist.
and so
Like,
forth. Now,
let's all keep in mind, all of this is like, do you remember what I said about value neutral terms? Do you remember what I said? That a lot of that you can tell propaganda by the way that you are supposed to read into value neutral terms. Such as, and like as you're reading this, like former FBI director. All right. like Democrat activist. That's pretty value neutral. That could be good, it could be bad. Obama sycophant. That one's pretty that's pretty negative. But like what's it called? And like, but you can kind of always tell somebody is doing like the propaganda game when like you're meant to make all of the valuations on a lot of like descriptive terms. Like these are the things, like as somebody is reading this, if I'm my dad, I'm reading this maybe a bit slowly, and I get to Andrew Weissman, his wife, a Democratic activist, and Obama sycophant with a long record of prosecutorial abuses of process. And it's the same thing that like you see Tim Pool do this a lot of times in his videos a lot, where like he'll be talking normally and then like he'll shift into this like really weird like demonic Alex Jones voice. Keep an eye out for it, because it's very obvious that they're not trying to give you information. They're trying to tell you how to feel about something.
Let's step back. This DA in Atlanta, as well as Jack Smith, what are they doing? What have they done? Alan Dershowitz wrote an important piece for the Daily Mail.
Who the fuck cares about Dershowitz?
During the course of our challenges, this is Bush Gore. He was representing the people of Palm Beach
Bush
County
Gore.
in that litigation.
Many
tactics similar to those employed in 2020 were attempted. Lawyers wrote legal memoranda outlining possible courses of conduct, including...
Wait, so what you're telling me is that they're finally going to prosecute somebody for trying to steal an election, even though, 20 years prior, they just decided to let it go? Like, let's be really clear here. 2020 was a successful stealing of an election. Al Gore won the state of Florida, but the Supreme Court handed it to George W. Bush. Let's be really, really clear about that. And the complaint that they're making now, 20 years later, the Republican Party, the complaint they are making now is that why won't they rig it for us now? What the fuck? What the hell is this? You rig it for us. You break the rules for us.
Posing a slate of alternate electors who would deliver our preferred election results to Congress. This is normal. In 2000, Florida state officials were lobbied to secure recounts in selected counties, in which we thought the tally would favor us. We were trying to find at least 600 votes that would change the result. The new indictment features Trump's phone call with Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger,
yeah,
which was captured.
We already listened to this. We already know how bad it is. It's quite bad.
In an audio recording. In the conversation, Trump asks him to find 12,000 votes. In my mind, says Dershowitz, this call is among the most exculpatory pieces of evidence. Trump was entitled as a candidate to ask a Georgia state official to locate votes that he believes were not counted. Trump was told.
Nope, that's not what he said. The quote was, I just need 11,870 votes. That's what he said. It was not a random number. It was a very specific number which would give him a win in the state. That is what he was looking for.
That in some of these Republican counties, that the votes aren't in yet, or they can't, actually find the ballots and the votes. And he says, well, can't you find whatever it is, 11 or 12,000 votes? That's it.
11,870. I don't know why Mark Levin doesn't know this number, and I do. Probably because he's old and stupid.
In 2000, attempts were made to influence various Florida officials to recount the votes. Now, the former president's request that Georgia's Speaker of the House reconsider the count is being considered as soliciting a public official to violate his oath. Do you understand the extent to which the criminal activity is the criminal activity of the Biden administration?
Also, keep in mind, just because they didn't enforce the law before doesn't mean they shouldn't do it now. They should have done it then. They should do it now.
Department of Justice, Merrick Garland, and Jack Smith, they are the criminals.
Merrick Garland's been a little badge.
Let's look at what Hillary Clinton did. Oh, I know the media hate to do this.
All he has is Clinton. That's it. That's all it is. I swear, I don't, again, I only know this guy from listening in the mornings on the way to school. But goddamn, I've never seen somebody like, especially in the 90s and everything, you couldn't find a Republican. You could not throw a fucking stone without knocking out like 10 Republicans who have who just fucking seethe at the word Hillary Clinton.
Because the media are frauds.
Obsessed, man.
Freedom of the press, an entire book.
An entire holds up own book. You see this book here? This is the book that you need to be reading. This book right here. This is the greatest political book that's ever been written. You see this right here? You see this book by this amazingly beautiful, not bald at all, I swear to God, writer right here, Mark Levin. This right here is the book. You need this book right here. It'll cost you about $12.99 on Amazon, $7.99 if you have Prime. Right here, this is the book you want. Fucking shill over here.
On what the media have done to this country. This is not a free press. This is a Pravda.
Do you want to know why they're so good at writing so many of these books too? Because fiction's a little bit easier than nonfiction.
They will never have an illegal analyst on there discussing it. The people who watch these programs, even though they have very, very small audiences, the big part of their audience, members of Congress, people in the White House.
My favorite thing is they're like, yeah, CNN will never have a legal analyst.
Other press and influencers.
I won't have a legal analyst. I'm too small.
Their audience.
I am the legal analyst. What am I saying?
Judges are flesh and blood. They're human beings too.
Ooh, better watch it.
Some are better than others. Some of them are radical activist Democrats. Some of them are brilliant and objective. Unfortunately,
this dude, man, it's literally like, it's like some of them are radical active Democrats and others are perfectly okay people who save a dog every single day and on their way into work usually adopt at least one child out of poverty and pay for their education for the rest of their lives. You know, some of them are radical Democrats, some of them are God's gift to humanity. Like, living in a world of propaganda has got to be interesting. Actually, it's got to be a bit boring because it feels like everything's either like red or black and white to these people. Like, really, like it's got to be. You know, I'm surprised that he's not already having like a hernia just having the word Hillary next to him for the tropical storm. But he's making it through it. He's making it through it.
Unfortunately, Trump is getting most of the former. Entire book on that too.
Oh no!
So what did Hillary Clinton do? She walks the
country.
He's
wrote a book on every topic.
She's gaggling all over the place. She's getting into friendly media. She's laughing about all these indictments. Hillary Clinton should be in prison for her entire life. Over 4,500 criminal statutes in the U.S. Code that exist today.
You know what's funny? All right. Do you want to hear the big one? You want to hear the big one? You want to hear the thing that differentiates me from somebody like Mark Levin? Would you like to know? If Hillary Clinton broke the law, she should be prosecuted to the letter of the law. And if Donald Trump did the same, should also be held to the letter of the law. You see, the difference between me and Mark Levin is Mark Levin will come on here and show you what theoretical crimes of Democrats or just outright crimes of Democrats. We'll say that. And he'll say that's an excuse why a Republican, why a conservative should not be charged with whatever they're charged for. You see, I am a leftist. I believe in law. Unlike this piece of shit. I believe in the law. Therefore, when Democrats do it, lock their ass up. When Republicans do it, lock their ass up. That's how I feel. But Mark Levin's different. He's different. He's different in a different kind of way. He's the kind of guy that goes, look, Democrats breaking the law. Why can't we? We all want to break the law, don't we? We all, you know, Trump. Why are we charging Trump? We didn't charge Hillary. Come on, the game is we don't charge each other. That's how this works. The powerful don't hold each other to account. That's the system. And that's the relationship to the law that Mark Levin is actually advocating here.
One mostly used. The ones are conspiracy, false statements, money laundering, obstruction, perjury, mail fraud, wire fraud, bank fraud, tax evasion. Hillary Clinton. To convict Clinton, it must be shown that she acknowledged that classified emails were contained. Hillary Clinton.
Wait. I want to see. Let's see. There are over 4,500 criminal statutes in the United States Code, according to 2008 study by retired Louisiana. Okay. Criminal statutes in the code, according to a study.
Over 4,500 criminal statutes in the U.S. Code that exist today.
Right.
The one mostly used, The ones are
However, the U.S. Attorney and the Department of Justice readily charge most white-collar, non-violent offenses from a select pool of federal statutes, with the most prominent being conspiracy. Okay, so we have a two-tiered justice system, one that favors white-collar crime. Yeah, no shit.
conspiracy, false statements, money laundering, obstruction, perjury, mail fraud, wire fraud, bank fraud.
Why produce legislation that might negatively affect their donors' investments? That is incredibly correct. What gain Erna? What you are correct. Incredibly correct. Mass gainer NA. All right, thank you. You are correct. That is precisely why we don't get laws and legislation to regulate big businesses, and also why politicians don't hold each other to account under the law. Because why would they? They're all in the same game. They all understand, hey, look. We'll take it easy on you. You break the law. You take it on me. We break the law. Republicans loved running on Hillary Clinton. But did you notice when it was time to charge her with something, they spent a million years on Benghazi and got nothing for it? Because they all understood it was show. The Benghazi trials, all of it, show. You win some seats in the House. You win some seats in the Senate. But that's all it ever was. They never went after the real stuff, and they never will, because that would open the door for all of them to be investigated for the actual crimes that they're all participating in. I'm a libertarian, but the problem with the Libertarian Party is that the major candidates are actually more closer to classically liberal than libertarian. I don't know the difference, but I hope one day I'm willing to shift you from libertarian to my end of the spectrum. Although technically, if we want to be real about it, libertarian really isn't supposed to be, well, historically, from my understanding, isn't really right wing. It's just these days you get a lot of right wing libertarians there are people, I know my stepbrother identifies as a libertarian socialist. I don't know if I'd probably align closer with them, but also I'm not really, I try not to, handcuffs right now. Dave Smith type handcuffs. Oh God. If you want handcuffs, go take a look at Kansas.
Tax evasion. Hillary Clinton. To convict Clinton, it must be shown that she acknowledged that classified emails were contained on her private server.
Oh, yeah. How much longer we got on this?
And they said the most
5
recent
minutes. Okay,
tally
cool.
by the State Department of their review of 30,000 Clinton emails indicates at least 671 emails sent or received by Clinton contained classified information.
Mm-hmm.
This fact stands in stark contrast to the statement she gave to reporters in July of that year, when she said, "I'm confident that I've never sent nor received any information that was classified."
And yeah, like there's no critique here.
Information safe. 18 USC 793. They're using that against Trump.
According, what law did Hillary Clinton actually? But yeah, according to an October 16th Fox News report, the FBI is also looking to see if Clinton committed gross negligence under that. Yeah, which didn't they just settle that? I don't remember, but I remember she got like a slap on the wrist.
Doesn't necessarily have to be marked as classified to violate the statute. The article cited an intelligence community source who spoke on the condition of anonymity. The intelligence source said the subsection requires the lawful possession of national defense information by a security clearance holder.
I'm curious why you think it's more efficient.
Gross negligence, such as the use of an unsecure computer network, permits the material to be removed or abstracted from its proper secure location.
Actually, Mass Gainer, I guess my question, I don't have too much time, but I am curious. When we talk about smaller government, what are you thinking? Because a lot of people say they prefer smaller government, but when they describe their vision of government and its role in all of our lives, it's noticeably big in certain areas and small in others. And where you see those disparities, I think, are interesting, and I think reveal your, I suppose, actual political leanings and biases, I suppose.
She even hired an IT person on her own dime who works for the Department of State to handle the server. That's how much she didn't want anyone to know about the server. And by the way, that's a crime too. You're not allowed to subsidize or receive private monies for doing what is a government job, and that's sort of what he was doing. for her at her request. But nobody.
Local government have more power and control where their taxes go. Many small towns get taxed, and they're never. When you say small towns get, do you mean like the people who live in, like, if I live in small town Ohio, whatever, you know, I pay like my local taxes, but then I pay my federal taxes. All the same federal money goes to the larger cities. That is incredibly true. I certainly think the distribution of our taxes can be fixed. But you also have to keep in mind that the reason why a lot of state and federal money goes to cities is mainly because that's where most of the people are. Most people, a large proportion of the population, lives in cities now, unfortunately. Not that I don't know if I want to say unfortunately. Cities are cities. Some are good, some are bad. But keep in mind also, some of the biggest beneficiaries of federal government dollars are also rather rural red states. They also take in a lot of federal money and a lot of federal taxes. So a lot of money is also coming out of cities in terms of taxes as well. So keep that in mind.
Talks about that. She destroyed.
We're also going to finish this up, and then I got to run.
But cell phones. Nobody was dragged in front of a grand jury. There was no search.
Do you have anything else to say, Mark? Or are you done? Are you done with the bitching about Hillary Clinton?
She didn't have.
We're not done yet, are we?
5.5
thanks,
years
Maskin. I appreciate it.
Hunter Biden. During the course of the 5.5 years.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Are we doing Biden? Are we doing Biden? All right. I'm calling it. The Hunter Biden stuff is stupid. And let me be clear. There's going to be probably sensible senator who's going to come in here and be like, oh, leftist running from the Hunter Biden story. No, I've just already covered it a million times. There's no evidence for any of it. All of it is speculation. You can go ahead and whine about it. I'm not. Why does that play twice? I don't understand. I need to fix that. I don't know why OBS plays that twice. But no, you can go watch them back and watch other older streams of mine, or I'm sure I've put a segment together. Actually, no, I know there's a segment on YouTube. You can watch that if you want all the Hunter Biden stuff. I'm not litigating that for the billionth time for this old fuck. Anyway, okay. You know the thing that they tell, you know, like at the end of all YouTube videos where they tell you to like click on one of these like things to watch more videos. Yeah, I've been meaning to film one of those. So that's what I was doing. I was just setting it up to film one.